Welcome, welcome, welcome. 239 Uncensored, everything Southwest Florida and beyond. And we have a great guest on our podcast this episode. We have a living legend, Johnny Nocera. Dr. Johnny. Johnny, welcome to the studio. What do you think about this place?
Oh, I tell you what, I was very impressed when I walked in here. You got some setup here. It's great.
Well, thanks. You know, it's great to have you. And I don't know if you know this. I mean, I know you know that I know your sons, JR and Jim. I've known them for a long time, coached baseball with them, had a great time. But what you don't know probably is I listened to you when I first moved to Naples back in 1990. And when I say I listened to you, we'll talk a little bit about it. I listened to you on your, the car clinic, Dr. Johnny. And it was just something that I look forward to. I think it was on Saturdays. Was that on Saturday?
Saturday morning from 9 to 10, every Saturday morning. Started out in 1985. A gentleman by the name of Ed Carroll, who was doing WNOG, which was Naples on the Gulf,
right, on
1270 AM radio. And he asked me, actually, I was fixing his car. And he said, how about coming on the show with me one morning? Because he was broadcasting from 6 to 9. And we did a show together, and he just said, you know what? You're the car doctor. You're the man.
So you jumped to it, but how did you get that name, Dr. Johnny?
Well, don't forget, our shop is across from the Naples Community Hospital.
Right.
So we're the other hospital on 4th Avenue North where we fix your car, not your body. So
yeah.
So that's basically how I got the doctor name. I had a good advertising agent, and he basically came up with the doctor. We put a nice sign up there, and the doctor is in. Come fix your car.
And it stuck, right? So
it stuck, and it just kept going. And I went from WNOG to Wink Radio, and then from Wink Radio to Gulf Radio. So I've been on 3 different stations, and it's been 36 years. I just retired this last January. There was a person, or actually a technician in Golden Gate that used to call the show to try to stump me.
Stump you.
But he never did. And my last show, he called in. He said, I know you never got stumped, but I'm going to stump you with this one. So I said, go ahead. He says, give me the firing order of a 1955 Chevy with a 265 cubic engine. And I rattled it off.
Holy
and he said, you son of a, and hung up the phone.
And you know,
like my last show.
Yeah, and that's a big thing now is we're kind of like cheating, right? Because this is a podcast. We can edit, we can stop it.
Well, you can do me live. I mean, I've had enough radio behind me.
You're good live, but I wouldn't be so good live because, like you said, those days people can stump you.
It's like anything else.
Yeah,
you just get used to it.
And we'll talk a little bit more about the living legend status, right? You're 77.
I'm going to be 77.
You are like unbelievable shape. Now Johnny called me exactly how to.
I love tennis, and I play tennis 2 to 3 times a week. So
yeah, it's amazing. Now you called in, get to the studios a little bit, but that's hard for everybody. So it's a little tricky to find up here at Vanderbilt Airport at the Galleria shop.
Yeah, and a little trouble. Well, this is a huge complex. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's big. It's big up here.
It's a
beautiful
great
place.
Setup.
Yeah.
Once you told me the lobster roll, and I love lobsters. So.
I know. I don't know when that's going to open. I hope
there's
pretty
a sign
soon.
here, opening soon.
Yeah. So let me go back a little bit. When did you arrive in Naples, and how did you end up coming to this beautiful place?
Originally, I was from college. We came down on winter, spring breaks, and with my buddies. And my wife when I finally got married, my wife never been to Florida, so we said, let's go down. And my dad says, you're working too hard. Go take some time off. So we went to my sister at the time told me there was a gentleman, was a good friend of hers, that she was an interior designer, and she did his house in New York. And so she says, go see him. He's at the Cove Inn in Naples. Oh, okay. So we went to Daytona. We went to watch the motorcycle races, and then we went to Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and then came over to Naples, across the alley, which was only 2 lanes. So we went to go see Dr. Miller, his name was. He had his boat at the Cove Inn, and he took a liking to me. But who was with him but a guy by the name of Ad Miller. Now, old timers would know Ad Miller because he was a famous realtor in town.
Yeah, real estate people know him, that's for sure.
His biggest quote was, Naples sells itself. And he did really, really well. And he actually was in my Rotary Club too, because I joined Rotary right away because I was a past president of Rotary Club in Putnam Valley. And I was also a past president of the Rotary Club of Naples in 1987. So I've been around. I got in Rotary. I won the 4-way test, Rotarian of the Year, major fundraiser. I came up with a fundraiser. I got friendly with Dick DeVoe, who got me a Cadillac at cost, and we sold it, and we used the money all for kids' scholarships at Naples High School. So that really worked out well. We raised a ton of money, and I did that for 10 years. And then they tried something else.
Well, and that goes back to some of the stuff that you've done. I mean, you've just been a huge supporter of the Naples community in general. When I was
always a good supporter of children.
Yeah, I mean, anything,
Little League,
everything, all the different things.
I got friendly with Mr. Dovicott from Lely, and he had, when he was building that Lely, he had to put a complex for sports events or something. Anyway, like they'd have to have that as far as getting his regular, with the contracts for the selling homes. Right. You had to have a certain area.
Right, a certain portion of that had to be
residential.
Set aside to get it right. Correct.
So he had that land and he gave it to me. Said, "You do this for the kids and stuff. And get something going." So I built with my buddy Bill Spencer, who's worked for the county for years. And I also coached with him. You probably
I did too.
Yeah,
at Naples High with Jim.
And so he between the two of us, we built that Gulf Coast Little League. And
yes, right there.
At the time, my wife actually sold candy and made $10,000 to make the payments, because we had to borrow some money. A lot of the land I got, but I wanted to build a building for the hold equipment and actually for someone to watch the games and and store a lot of stuff. So anyway, we built this building and we needed some money. So I got friendly with Mamie Took from at the time was Barnett Bank. And I said, Mamie, I need $100,000. She said, "What are you going to do with it?" I said, "I want to build a little league field." She just come and get the money. That's how. This is the way it was years ago. It was amazing.
That's a ton of money too back then.
$100,000. Yeah. And she gave it to me, without even just me signing it. So, and then that worked out great. We built it. The leagues are, the fields are gorgeous, 2 fields, because we were getting thrown out of Chatillon and it was just getting so busy. And now look at this town. It's like night and day. We have grown so much. But anyway, we got that field done, and I also helped build a field at St. John Newman, because both my boys originally went to St. John Newman, and then they got baseballs. They end up going, because St. John Newman was only a 1A school. They were both really good athletes.
Yeah, they were.
JR was a great athlete, and Jimmy was. They all
good exposure at a bigger school.
They got scholarships from college from going to, because they got more exposure at a 3A school. JR ended up going to Lely, and Jimmy ended up going to Naples High, who was a quarterback there, and baseball. So
it's amazing.
Yeah, Danny Rogers.
Coached with them back. We had a great team back in it was a '92 season. I think we went all the way up to we got beat by Tampa Jesuit,
but get
almost in the finals.
Some of these teams that are
great kids, though.
Kids to
great
draw
kids
from.
Great kids.
Of course, that's the biggest thing. You can have a star pitcher or something like that, but I always said, give me a good pitcher and a catcher, and I'll go anywhere.
I got you. Just keep. Well, it's a little bit different too, because now they'll pitch somebody for 3 innings or out. When we used to pitch, we were pitching all the time. Oh, but so let me go back a little bit. Tell me a little bit about, and I know the listeners want to hear this. What was Naples like when you first got here? Because we know where you're at, where you're located. Right. Block off 41. You're kind of in the middle between.
Originally, my store was. My place was a car wash at one time.
Right.
And then Billy Barnett converted it to a Scotty muffler. And we were the only muffler shop from Everglades City all the way to Fort Myers. So if you needed a muffler, and the mufflers used to go bad then, because they didn't have unleaded gas then, and also they made a much better material in the metal, so it lasts much longer. And also you got the catalytic converters now that actually take the purities out of a lot of the exhaust problems. So anyway, so Billy sold that to me for $130,000 in October of '73.
Wow. 73.
Now I came down originally, as I mentioned before, to see Dr. Miller, and I saw Ed Miller, and he says, John, I'm going to make you a millionaire. Let's go out and look at some real estate. What his name told me. And the first thing he showed me was a empty lot in Port Royal on Galleon Drive.
Yeah, tell me about that.
And he said, John, you got to buy this lot. I said, how much is this lot? He said, $69,000. You know, lot's like 22 million now or whatever, but he was 100% right. But I didn't have that kind of foresight. And, you know, the hell, I was only 22 years old.
Rubbing nickels.
I didn't know.
Right?
I didn't have. So I ended up buying a house in Old Naples for $21,000. And it was.
You did well.
And everything. I never lived in that house. My mom and dad lived in there. My aunts lived in there. My brother lived in there. All my family lived in there except me. I closed in 10 days. It was unheard of. And I stayed, furnished it, got it all ready for whether I was going to stay or not. But I went back home and I said, Dad, I bought a house in Florida. And he said, oh, you stupid. You know, he's Italian. Right. You're crazy. This is where your money is. New York. You don't want to go to Florida. You're crazy. I said, Pop, you got to see this place. Believe me, Naples is wonderful. So I threw the keys on the kitchen table. I don't want to go. I don't want to know. So I don't hear from him for a couple of days. All of a sudden, I hear he comes in the shop and he says, hey, I talked to your mother. And you know what? I think we go see that place. How you get there? So I called the chief of police. His name is Woodruff at the time, John Woodruff.
Yeah.
Not
the
Woodruff,
John from
the other Woodruff.
Not from the city of Naples, right?
No,
yeah, no
relation.
Right.
But he was the chief of police at the time. And I said, Chief, can you go down and look at this address here in Royal Harbor and see I haven't heard from my mom and dad. I'm nervous. He says, no problem. I'll go myself. Calls me back in about 2.5 hours. He says, John, I went over to the house. Your mother wouldn't let me out unless she fed me. And your father had a bottle of wine that we finished. And he said, they're fine. The phone will be in tomorrow. He'll call you.
He's
so
there.
I get a phone call from him. It's like the chief said. And he said, my dad said, selling my house. I know, come home.
Unbelievable.
So I did. I put this house in the market, which is beautiful. They sold it in like 60 days. He came up just to, with a trailer and got all personal stuff and came down. He stayed in that house, but then he went around the corner and bought on Tarpon Road.
Right.
2000 Tarpon Road, and he was a new.
That was Royal Harbor, right?
Royal
Harbor,
yeah. It was a Ruttenberg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember them
too.
Yeah.
$42,000 he paid for it on the water.
Well, see, I laugh because I get here in 1990, and I had a chance. This guy's like, there's a really nice house in Royal Harbor, and they're asking $230 for it. It's on the canal and all that. And I worked back then. I worked in the Florida Marine Patrol before I switched over to the sheriff's office. So I literally was rubbing. I got out of the military, went into that. I was making $907 an hour, and I was like trying to figure out how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And I was renting, and I ended up in Golden Gate City at another place. But that's where that was it's just amazing times to look back to see the values and how things have changed over the years. And
of course, he was in that house. He loved it, and he said, you need to sell the business to come on down. He says, well, I miss you. This is where you want to raise your family. Right. I had 2 young kids, JR and Jim. Yeah. So I did it, and I bought a house in Lakewood.
Yep.
Because it was a community where there was more children and things like that. In fact, Donna
off Davis and East Trail
still lives there.
Right.
And I knew Donna real well because I watched her kids and she watched mine. That was that kind of relationship. She's a wonderful lady.
Yes, she is.
And so I lived there for a while. Then I bought a house in Royal Harbor on Kingfish, and I was there for 25 years on the bay. So
wonderful place.
Through divorces and stuff, I ended up losing that house and ended up building a new one on Dolphin.
Okay.
And then I sold that and went on the Gulf and bought a penthouse.
Okay.
At the Allegro, and it was there for 3-4 years, and sold that, made $600,000.
Yeah. Hey, there you go.
And now we're in a small condo, just my wife and I, my new wife, a wonderful lady, Mary. She's love of my life.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
And it's so good to hear those stories from like Naples. And because I think
the airport road was cobblestone.
Yeah.
It was like, it was little kind of pebbles.
and no coastal mall, none of that
Oh,
stuff.
no,
So when you had your business where it currently sits now, right? So what was that like in and around
the Dairy
that
Queen
41?
was there.
You're right.
You know, that teepee type building.
I remember that. Still there, but
it
it's
was
a
Mr.
taco place.
Donut that
Right.
was on the corner,
Right.
which I bought. I own the building. Now it's Dunkin' Donut.
Right.
So I got a 20-year lease with them there. And I mean, it was just a nice town with really not much traffic.
Right.
Now it's real. I got to tell you, Tim, it's getting scary out there.
Yeah. And the thing is, you don't see the layoff really. I mean, you see just it gets obviously real crazy this time of year.
Crazy isn't it?
It's nuts.
JR has got 142 cars in the lot right now. We don't know where to put them. And here I bought this whole block,
Yeah, you do
one
have
piece
a block,
at a time. And I said, I'll always have plenty of room for cars if we ever expand. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy right now. And I don't know how much JR does it. I tell you, he actually tripled and quadrupled what I did. And he's just doing a wonderful job.
Yeah, and I was going to
He's
ask.
a hard worker. Boy,
yeah, and he's always in the front. He's always in the front. New ideas, new
Jimmy
thoughts.
Too. Jimmy's Jimmy likes to go home a little earlier, but now that he's coaching, he's the coach in
Yeah,
Naples
head
High
coach
School.
Naples High.
So he's pretty busy boy. He's running the auto parts and the repair business. And so I set up the leases to the boys that, JR has to give him the repair work. When a car gets hit like in the front, it usually damages the motor or water pump or some radiator.
Right.
So he can't do that. He has to give that to his brother. So it makes it fair to all concerned.
That's good. Let me ask you this question. How have you been so successful, and what do you contribute your success? And I'm not talking, obviously financially you're doing okay, but just in general, in people, when they hear your name, they
it's a good question.
Honesty.
I got to tell you, I've never been afraid to work. I mean, my work ethic was always, I go out in the middle of the night and tow. I did this in New York. I tow cars. We had a towing business in the Bronx. So I'd go out, I'd listen to the radio 24/7. If there's an accident, first one got the car.
Right.
That's the way it was.
Right.
And so I remember one time, I'll tell you a quick story. That I went on the West Side Star. I get a call from the police, the New York police, and they said, hey, go pick up this car. It's on Wayside Highway, right near 57th Street. It's pulled over. Call us when you get there. So I get there and no tires on the car. All 4 tires were gone. So then I said, I better call them back. At the time, there was not much cell phones here, I'm telling you. So I go up to 59th Street where there was a call box. I call them in. I said, hey, you got to get an officer here. There's no tires on this car. I just want to make sure you know. She says, all right, go back to the car. I'll make sure a trooper over there in within 5 minutes. Sure enough, I get there. The cop's there. All 4 doors are gone. I said,
in that time
couldn't have been more than 6 minutes, maybe. I said, man, I want these guys working for me. And if I would have left again, there'd probably be the windshield would be gone, the seats would be gone. It was amazing. That's the way it was in Manhattan. I went through a lot, especially I repoed some cars, and that was kind of.
And how old were you then? You were young, right?
I was 22, 23 years old.
Just running.
Maybe
running
earlier than that. I was probably more than like 18, maybe.
Right, right, yeah.
We had a nice business, and we ended up getting out of the Bronx and going to on the Taconic State Parkway in Mahopac, New York, which is about 50 miles out of the city. My dad saw things happening in the Bronx, and he said, we got to get out of here. You're not going to raise your kids here, that's for sure. And then, of course, when he got to Florida, he said the same thing. And
right.
Get down here.
Right.
And so here I am. And then, of course, I had a career politically with City Council, Naples City Council. Yes, I do. I started out in 1996, served 4 years. Then I ran for mayor in 2000, and I lost by a very slim margin, and only because Peter Van Arsdale decided to run, and he was always aligned with me on the way we voted. We were called the Bridge Boys. We talked about putting a bridge across Central Avenue,
right,
the airport,
over to the other side
many years ago.
Right.
So we were called the Bridge Boys, and he decided at the last minute to run, and he only got 800 votes, but I would have gotten all his votes and I would have won.
Right.
So,
right.
Anyway, that's okay. Bonnie McKenzie won, and
Yeah, because it split the vote on you guys' side, right? Yeah,
it split the vote.
Yeah.
It's just the way it was.
Yeah,
it's okay. So
well,
then
that's
I
how it
came
works,
back in
yeah.
2004, became vice mayor, and I also was always involved with the kids. One thing I did it when in the first from 96 2000, I brought the electric truck to Naples. Nobody even thought about that. And there was a guy on council by the name of Fred Tarrant. He was blind.
I remember.
It cost us $60,000 to get that thing where the braille that he would have to feel things,
right?
Because he was blind, and
right.
And that's how he used to read the contracts. But anyway, he was totally against the electric car because he said he couldn't see it. He couldn't be, and with electric was no noise either.
Right.
So
couldn't hear it.
He voted against it.
Couldn't see it.
It was in the budget that the manager could have done it. And at the time it was Richard Woodruff. And I got to tell you, Richard Woodruff was probably the smartest guy I ever met. And he was our city manager. He was so smart that he knew where he was stepping. When he was stepping the next step, he knew where that foot was going. And he is the reason that Naples is the way it is today. He had the foresight on Goodlet Road to put all those complexes in for the city.
Right.
Eventually, he wanted to move City Hall over there. There was that Fred Tarrant. He went against his integrity and he quit. Yeah. It's a shame.
Yeah.
And he went to Wilson Millen Peak as an engineer because he had the background of a town planner. The guy was unreal.
Yeah, I remember Richard
and talented.
Because, his son played football.
Yeah,
Lucas, I believe.
Down Cambia Park. We started that things for the kids, where they can play and stuff like that. We got us all together with hammers and nails. We built that, and we also built the skateboard park, the original skateboard park, where we started out with 150 kids. Now there are over 6,000 kids in that program, and we've had this big thing that the city people didn't want the county kids to come over the line. I mean, come on. I mean, what does a kid know? And, so that worked out, but it was always something, usually from the old Naples Association, who didn't want Fifth Avenue. I brought this Andre Duane over to design. He was a town planner.
Look at it now.
Designed Fifth Avenue.
Look at it now.
And they were against it. We don't need this. We don't. Guess who's using those restaurants right now? The same people that came before me and said, "Oh, you can't do this. You can't do this."
It's amazing what's been done down there. That brings me to the skate park.
Yeah,
I was driving by that the other day, and I got a really good look at it because I think it was a time of day where not a lot. That thing is amazing, and it's named after you. How did that all? Ideas and thoughts, and obviously it progressed to where it started.
Again,
right?
We started with 150 kids, and I got restaurants to bring over a Laudermill Park to bring pizzas and sodas and stuff for the kids, and that built. We needed a bigger place. So Richard Woodruff at the time, he said, "You know what? I think we can build some of this." So we built a Mickey Mouse one out of wood. And
I remember the original.
Yeah, the original one. And then, it got so crowded, we knew we had to do something. So we hired a company by the name of Team Payne out of California to actually construct the current one that's made out of cement. I think they charge us $85,000. And it is what it is today. And of course, it's well used. And I put up $100,000 where if any kid that can't, I originally wanted to only charge the kids $5, but they said, well, you need more and this and that. All right. So they raised it to $30. So I said, if any kid can't afford that $30, you take it out of that $100,000 and also use it for the maintenance. Mm-hmm. And that money's, it's actually bills. It's a fund that I put up. And then, so it should be there a long time. And by the way, there was a group that wanted to take that whole complex down and put pickleball in because there was so much call for pickleball. Pickleball has really gone crazy.
It has.
But they came out of the woodwork. The parents came out of the woodwork and said, that'll never happen.
Yeah. Well, and I think, Johnny, one of the reasons why Collier County, Naples is so successful is we do spend time with our kids. I worked, luckily I worked at the sheriff's
But
office.
don't forget, it's a retirement town.
Oh, I know.
The old
Yeah.
And if you don't believe me, come to JR's shop and see all the cars that are banged when they bang at, they pull out of, they back out of their garage and they knock mailboxes over. And I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's a retirement town. And
it is.
Sometimes the drivers shouldn't be driving.
Yeah, in some cases.
So, but still,
but they
you're
do.
finding younger families moving down here more and more. And now we're pretty much filling the city. It's really, the expansion is North Naples and East Naples like mad now.
Crazy.
I mean, when I first came here, if you went past Pine Ridge Road, it was the sticks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you wouldn't go out. There's nothing up there, but not now. And even east, if you go east now, it's just amazing.
And you're going to laugh when you hear this. Grand Central Station was like the place to be, right? It's like, I remember that Grouper House and it's just like some of those places. And I remember like there was really no like this. And I know some people are going to be the Swamp Buggy Lounge. There's some of those
Mr.
places.
C's,
And
on 41.
People don't realize if they move here now, what it was like. And it really wasn't all that long ago.
And it's
crazy.
I mean, for me to look back, it's just wonderful. But I've always believed in smart growth, and you can't stop people from coming here. How would you say to your uncle that's in Philadelphia, say, Uncle Joe, don't come to Naples, there's too many people here. How do you say that to him? You can't. I remember Larry Ingram, who is he's an attorney. I think he's retired now, but he used to be a judge, I believe, in the city of Naples. But he designed these signs to put on. He was giving them away. It says, Naples, don't tell your friends about it. That's what the sticker said. And he would
we need to start that
out in the courtroom.
Well, and it's kind of funny you say that too, because and I'll run this by you now. We know a lot of people from up north, right? Whether it be Chicago, New York, Boston, whatever. They're coming down to Florida, and if they can afford to live down in Naples, they'll come this way. But what do we tell those folks that are leaving because of maybe the politics and the tightness and the things that are happening up there? What do we tell them?
I mean, who wants to live in New York now?
It's tough. It's
Democratic
expensive
state. I mean, that's absolutely just what the mayor did to that town is it's just sickening. At least maybe this new guy.
De Blasio made it real tough.
Oh,
the new guy, Adams, I think good.
Yeah,
at least he's
talking
kind of working his way back.
He's going to try to kill
former law enforcement.
You realize 76% increase in crime in New York?
It's crazy.
76%.
Yeah.
So I hope this Adams guy does something for that state. But Naples is just a wonderful place to live.
Yeah.
We have it all. We have the great restaurants. A lot of it's easy location to go. Within 15 minutes, you can go to the best restaurant. You can go to a theater. I mean, we have it all. It's really a great town. It's my love anyway. But I do love North Carolina though.
Yeah. You said you're gonna be here.
Yeah.
No, it's nice up there.
I like to get out of the heat.
The heat, right?
And I have a place in I have two homes in North Carolina. One I have in Lake Hickory, right on the water, a 23-mile lake that eventually goes into Lake Norman, which I've never gotten that far with my boat. And also I have a home in the Smoky Mountains, 5,000 feet up, in a place called Beach Mountain.
I know it. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Very nice place.
And the temperature there, Tim, never goes higher than 74.
Beautiful. A lot of the folks that we work with at Sheriff's Office, Beach Mountain, they retire there. If they can go
there's a lot of Naples people.
74 degrees. It's perfect.
Yeah. Oh,
it's perfect. I'm going to go back to memory lane. I have a Jeep, Dr. Johnny, right? I've got a Jeep, and when I hit a certain speed, or if I hit like a little bit of a bump, it starts to get into a major freaking shimmy situation.
Most likely you have a loose component in the steering mechanism, like an idler arm or tire rod end or something like that. So that's the first thing you want to check. Secondly, make sure the tires are balanced well, because sometimes if you get above a speed, can you tell me that it doesn't? Does it do it at like 20 miles an hour?
It does it,
or does it at 50 miles an hour?
If I'm doing 50, I'm pretty good. It can overcome it. But if I hit something like just the right pothole at the right time at about 24 miles an hour, it starts a shimmy.
And most likely it is one of the steering mechanisms. There's a steering also stabilizer that's on the steering link that makes sure that that's in good shape. Otherwise, it's like a shock absorber, and it takes the shock out of the steering mechanism, where you got the idler arm, the tire rod ends, and the pinion arm. So
unbelievable. You know what? This is like really cool. This is like one of the coolest things ever. Dr. Johnny, I'd like to thank you so much for coming in, and you're always welcome.
Pleasure.
And you know, you are, when I say that, legitimately,
we got to watch the growth, right?
Yeah. The living legend.
I got to tell you, I've never
great.
Seen what's happening in real estate. I've been here almost 50 years. I've never seen what's going on. We bid on a couple of houses. The three houses. We put the contract in for exactly what they wanted. Didn't even negotiate. And we lost all 3 houses because someone overbid us by 50 or 100,000.
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
How crazy it is right now. And they're getting, but mark my word, it's going to turn around.
Something's going to have to give at some point.
It's too much.
It's crazy.
It's too much.
Yeah,
yes, everybody wants to move here. I understand that. And you know what really made it that more than anything is the way that they had to do everything remotely. So a lot of people stayed home. So if they could stay home and make a buck, why couldn't they do it in a wonderful town like Naples and get out of the snow and ice and everything else that's there? Crime. We basically don't have crime here. I mean, we have the best police department. Well, your sheriff's department.
Thank you.
I mean, you got the Rambos, who's a great guy. Actually, I was the one who was my vote to get him in as our manager at one time.
Yeah, he does a wonderful job.
He was our chief of police at one time.
Yeah.
And then before that, I knew Chief Rebel. I knew them all. You know, they're all great people. But Naples is safe because of our police department. These guys are great out there. They keep crime away from us. They know, all these police officers know that they're all great, every one of them. And I fought for them when I was on council to make sure they got everything they needed. And the guy that got in there now, Pete, who's the city manager, who was the chief at the fire department, what a man he is. He is unreal. I mean, if they get rid of him, someone needs to shoot somebody.
Dr. John, it's good they just let it out.
Yeah, well, hey, I tell it like it is. I've always had that. That's part of my success.
You know all the nuts and bolts of the city of Naples. You've been here a long time. You put a lot of hard work, a lot of sweat and tears in that whole thing, and it really means a lot to you, and the passion is there, right? So you want to make things good. And you hit it on the head. Like, how are you going to tell somebody you can't come to this beautiful place?
It's been a problem, I tell you.
Yeah.
So our time is getting there.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we're always
just
good.
Flew by.
I know, it's like 35 minutes.
We haven't even touched on a whole bunch of stuff I had in my mind.
Well, could you do me a favor? Could you make sure we set it up to where you come back?
Absolutely.
And now you know exactly where it's at, so we don't have to worry about it. Yeah. All right. 229 Uncensored, everything Southwest Florida and beyond. And I'd like to thank Dr. Johnny. We can get out there and do a little fist bump, Johnny. It's so great to have you. It's like
it's been my pleasure.
I get goosebumps with it.
Hey, if somebody listens and they maybe learn something or help somebody, and that was one key thing. Always try to help somebody. And you're doing that, Tim, by doing this show. You talk about new things.
It's fun.
Try to help somebody.
Thank you.
Do that in your life, and believe me, it pays off.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
We are out.